opening song. I invite you, if you have a prayer book in front of you, you can grab it now. We have a cup of wine or candles and challah. We'll be celebrating the Jewish table rituals together throughout the service. And we'll begin just in a song of welcome, that it's so good to be here together with our friends, to be with brothers, sisters, and friends old and new. So please join us in song as we enter Shabbat. Well, good evening and Shabbat Shalom once again to those who have just come in. It's good to see all of you. Good to see your faces. I hope everybody's had a good week. And regardless of what kind of week you had, the good news is that this is an invitation for a little reset, a little leaving of what was behind to enter into the brightness and beauty of Shabbat rest. This is Shabbat Titzaveh, the week that we read the Torah portion Titzaveh, which talks about, among other things, the Ner Tamid, the light above the tabernacle that would be lit constantly, glowing and sharing its warmth. It says in the Hebrew, Ve'ata Titzavet b'nei Yisrael v'yichu elecha shemen zayit kach ketiv lemor lahalot latamid, lahalot ner tamid. You should bring pure oil for kindling lamps regularly. And so I'd like to share a brief story about kindling lamps. In a mountain village in Europe many, many, many years ago, there was a nobleman who was concerned about the legacy he would leave for the people of his town. And so he decided to build a synagogue. In the course of his planning, he decided no one would see the plans for the building until it was finished. So you already know this is not TBT. He erected a wall around the building and began construction. The workers were sworn to secrecy. Day and night, they worked until the new synagogue was finished. When the work was completed, the townspeople were excited and curious about what they would find upon entering their new synagogue. So they lined up early in the morning and anxiously waited for the wall to come down. Suddenly, the doors opened and the townspeople began one by one to enter. They marveled at the synagogue's magnificence. No one could ever remember so beautiful a temple anywhere in the world. They sat admiring the intricate designs and the beautiful windows. They were in awe of the craftsmanship and the attention to detail around the landscaping and the cupola. Then, noticing a seemingly obvious flaw in the design, one of them asked, "Where are the lamps? What will provide the lighting? You built such a beautiful building and you forgot to place lamps so that we could see each other. We could see the rabbi. We could see the Torah when we worship. How could this be?" And everybody began to laugh. But then that very proud nobleman held up his hand to silence the crowd. A hush came over the whole congregation. He then pointed around him to brackets on either side, strategically placed all along and the length of the wall throughout the synagogue. He began to pass out a lamp to each family as he explained, "Whenever you come to this synagogue, I want you to bring your lamp with you and light it. and your light will fill this place with prayer. But each time you are not here, a part of the synagogue will be dark. The lamp will remind you that whenever you are absent, some part of God's house will be dark. Your community is relying on you for light. As we bring in the lights of Shabbat, I'm so deeply reminded that our community is richer and vibrant for the light that all of us can bring, each of us in our own way, each of us with our own gifts along our own spiritual journey. The old, the young, everyone who comes to our place of worship has a place in our synagogue. And we miss seeing everyone's light in our place. We look forward to our TBT home once again having all of your lights. Also on this evening, we are perhaps offering this invitation to be more aware of whose lights haven't been in our community, whom we might include. And so to that end, as we're observing Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month, we think about the lights of those with different abilities who might be sometimes less seen, less visible within the community, but whose role and whose light are nevertheless very important. And so to that end, I am honored that we have with us Aaron Kaufman. Hi, Aaron. He is the Jewish Federations of North America Senior Manager of Legislative Affairs, and we're excited to be hearing from him later in the service. Welcome, Aaron. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We'll continue now, bringing some of that light that we all carry into our homes, and God willing, filling our screens with light. So if you have your candles with you, this is the time. Please join Cantor Boyle in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to greet each other with a Shabbat Shalom. And it's not so easy to just turn to the person sitting behind you in the pew while we're on Zoom, but feel free to use our chat now and throughout the service to say who you are and wish our community a Shabbat Shalom. If you want to say where you're joining from, you're more than welcome to also. So Shabbat Shalom to all of our friends, those local here in Connecticut and those joining us from Maryland, from Florida, from I don't even know where else. We're very glad you're here. This is also the time, and I realized even as I'm saying this, that I neglected to take my cell phone out of my pocket before I started the service. And because it's buzzing, this is a reminder that I'm taking it out now and turning it off. I invite you to do the same. Maybe this is the only hour in the whole week that you've had your cell phone off, but let's turn off the devices and the alerts and turn on the heart space, the openness to Shabbat and song, which we'll hear so beautifully led by Cantor Boyle as we enter into Kabbalat Shabbat with Yedid Nefesh and Mizmor Shir singing together.
Ay, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, מאמונתך בלילות, עלי אסור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינוי, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
I hope it's not too much for us to imagine the harmonies that our voices would be making right now, because they would certainly be beautiful. And God willing, we'll be back in a place to sing together with sometime within the next few weeks, we hope, where we'll be offering an in-person service back at Camp Laurelwood. So stay tuned for that so that we can truly raise our voices in one space. And don't worry, we'll be keeping that Zoom option too. But in the meantime, I see a lot of you who have a spouse or a partner or a child or a mom or a dad with you. And so take advantage of the harmony that you can make with total non-judgment, because nobody can hear you. We just can imagine it. And because it's Shabbat and we give each other the benefit of the doubt, we know that every harmony is beautiful, right, Cantor Boyle? Absolutely. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night. And eternity utters a day. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 la, lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala.
stay standing if it's comfortable to do so for Chatzi Kaddish, and then our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu.
Yet gadol v'yet kadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrei chirutei v'yamlik malchutei. Mechayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, ubizman karib, vimeru, amen. Yesh me rabba mevarach, le'olam olam me'al maya, yirbarach, yirbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpar v'yitrama v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalam, shemed kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol b'chata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'olma, v'meru, amen.
We can all have a seat as we continue in the Ma'ariv service with a blessing for creation and time. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chokhmah poteach she'arim, uvituvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uven layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, O God, who brings on the evening. I'll invite us to read together for Torah, here in English. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod ובכל לבבך, ובכל נפשך, ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבדך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Amen. Feel free to read along. God, you performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. And so then will we, for Mi Chamocha, our song of freedom. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, O God, who redeems Israel. Let there be love and understanding among us. May peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts. Then may we lie down in peace. When we rise up, we will be waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Peace and friendship be our shelter.
As we begin the Amidah, we greet the ancestors. We ask God's blessing on the merit of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, and Leah, our biblical matriarchs and patriarchs who came before and whom we honor in our daily prayers. And so, as we start thinking about the ancestors, and as we perhaps reflect on some of the gifts that they gave us, on some of what they left us, I just wanted to share a little ancestral mathematics I recently learned. I hope you like this. In order to be born, you need 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 second great-grandparents, 32 third great-grandparents, 64 fourth great-grandparents, 128 fifth great-grandparents, 256 sixth, 512 seventh, 1,024 eighth great-grandparents, and 2,048 ninth great-grandparents. For you to be born today from 12 previous generations, you need a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. You need a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. Judaism is perhaps as long as 4,000 years old. So to imagine 10 times that number are those on whose shoulders we stand, on whose following in whose footsteps we tread. Think for a moment about those stories that existed in this world. How many struggles, how many battles, how many difficulties, how much sadness, but how much happiness and how many love stories, how many expressions of hope for the future. How much did our ancestors have to undergo for us to exist in that present moment? If that doesn't fill your heart with awe, I don't know what will. Sometimes the human side of our story can fill our hearts with awe. I invite us to rise if it's comfortable to do so. Otherwise, you can rise spiritually as well as we join together in the words of the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Kodnei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, U'Mevi Gula Lifnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, ומחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Continue for a few moments in silence. Feel free to complete your prayers at your own pace and have a seat whenever you're ready. We pause for a moment here to honor all of those who are struggling with illness, those in our community, those of our loved ones, family, and friends. I'll share the names of those known to our clergy team. But if there are others, feel free to enter their names also in the chat when I'm finished reading these, and we'll hold all of them in our prayers. We think of our temple members, Amy Agranov, Allison Broder, April D'Amato, Norma Diamond, Henry Gettenberg, Josh Lipschitz, Sabrina Maurer, and Paula Retsky. And our loved ones, Connie Ambrosino, Harriet Cohn-Haggerty, Rochelle Downheimer, Mickey Bart, Jay Fliss, Sue Yeres, Mark Ostreicher, Matthew Pincus, Sydney Scher, Bart Young, Richard O'Hara, Robert Harris, Anthony Santomaro, Ben Peck, Martha Potter, Mark Potter, Ethan Stark, Kyle Stark, Joni Pepper, Melissa Mihalko, Joan Sidney, Phoebe Turtledove Katayanagi, Ira Weiss, Peggy Pig, Elizabeth Powers Brown, Rebecca Levy, and Adam Zielinski. To those names we add Jennifer Butler, Scott Casp, Suzanne Kingsbury, Adrian Popig, and Helena Schanzer. We are grateful to see you, Helena. Maybe not on your feet just yet, but we know you will be soon. And we join our voices in prayer for the healing of all in our community and all who are in need as we sing Misha Berach together. Friends, it's now my privilege to introduce our speaker for this evening, Aaron Kaufman, JFNA, Senior Manager of Legislative Affairs. As I mentioned at the beginning of the service, that's the umbrella organization of Jewish federations across North America. And he joined that organization in 2016 as Senior Manager of Legislative Affairs. He focuses on disability and poverty issues. Before that, he worked at the ARC in Maryland, where he advocated for two members of the Maryland General Assembly and the Maryland Congressional Delegation on intellectual and developmental disabilities policy. Aaron was born with cerebral palsy and brings a unique perspective to the efforts of his work on behalf of all people with disabilities. But that's not all he does. Outside of advocacy, he was also the instructor at Project Search Montgomery, which is a job training program for young adults. And he graduated from the University of Maryland College Park with a BA in American Studies with several honors. He serves on the executive committee of the Jewish Foundation for Group Homes and is the former vice chair of the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council. He's also served on the board of the National Association of Developmental Disabilities Councils, as well as the board of Disabilities Rights Maryland. And if that's not impressive enough, I should tell you that Aaron's also just a great guy and a really fun guy who I'm happy to personally reconnect with at this juncture, because I knew Aaron from my time in Washington, D.C., where I got to meet him through Temple Micah, a special congregation where I spent some time working, and Susan did too. And so Susan and I know are both very happy to see you, Aaron, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of new friends after the next few minutes. So welcome to our virtual Bima. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. I wish my grandmother was here to kafel over that introduction. She probably wrote it for you. And it's just such an honor to be here this evening. And I want to, this is the first time really that we are publicly interacting since you got your shmichas. So congratulations to you, Rabbi Moss. Back in the day, you were simply the wonderful youth director at Temple Micah. And I think that this congregation made a fine choice in selecting you. An equally fine choice would be Rabbi Susan Landau Moss, who I counted on as my spiritual leader for 3 years at Temple Micah. And I envisioned that she would have a long career with us at Temple Micah, but Cupid's arrows had other plans. So I agreed to do this because not only because of my fondness for the Mosses, but because I know Danny and he believes, and as does Susan, in inclusion in his kishka. Because what I find too often today, my friends, is what I call hold your nose inclusion, whereby inclusion, synagogues know that to cover their tushies, they must say that they are in favor of including people with disabilities. But they fetch all the while the cost, the liability, the disruption to other people without disabilities. It will negatively impact the religious school education of other students. The teacher will have to spend too much time with the student with disabilities. So-and-so's autistic and they make noise during services. And so there is just a lot of hold your nose inclusion. One story that sticks out to me is I gave a speech actually at the White House, and this rabbi came up to me after the speech and he said to me, Aaron, that was a lovely speech, but you don't understand something about being a congregational rabbi. And I said, what is that, Rabbi? And he said, synagogues have small budgets and every constituency, every special interest group within the synagogue wants a piece of that pie. You know, right now at my shul, I have some Jews of color that would like this, and some LGBTQ Jews at my shul who would like that, and on and on and on. And I said, Rabbi, what you're missing is the intersectionality, because within the disability community, there are Jews of color and there are LGBTQ Jews. I think that people often use money as somewhat of an excuse because they do not feel comfortable around people with disabilities. Their image of people with disabilities is from the Jerry Lewis telethons. And so they will often use money, I think, as an excuse, because a budget is a statement of a congregation's values. And I will tell you that I love my synagogue so much, but particularly since Danny tells me you are undergoing renovation. My synagogue does not do a great job of being inclusive. For example, I was not able to be on the bima during my bar mitzvah because of the fact that the bima was not accessible. In addition, the men's room door didn't have an automatic door for me, and I've been pushing for it for years. And then the executive director of our synagogue, the wonderful Rachel Gross, asked me, could I please sit on a committee about creating a gender-neutral bathroom for our non-binary friends? And I wrote her back and I said, Rachel, that's wonderful. But first, let's do this accessible door that I've been asking for 10 years. And so they did it. But I've often had to be a nag at my synagogue, and I nag for a living as a lobbyist for people with disabilities. And so I'm used to it, but it's emotionally draining. And so I urge you to think instinctively about what people with disabilities need so that they don't have to nag and they don't have to constantly push like we are accustomed to, because we have to do that in our everyday life. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Aaron, I don't know what a blind person needs. I don't know what someone with CP needs. I don't know what somebody with an intellectual disability needs to feel at home in a synagogue, because I don't have a degree in special ed or psychology or anything like that. But I think too often people are too afraid to ask people with disabilities questions. What do you need? We want to welcome you. We want to make you welcome at our synagogue, because we don't want to just say that it's B'Tselem Elohim, that we are all created in the image of God and that we should not put a stumbling block before the blind. We want to mean it, because it's really obvious, ladies and gentlemen, it's very obvious when people, it's just rhetoric, that people know that in 2021, they're required to say they believe in B'Tselem Elohim, but their actions, their excuses tell you otherwise. And so I urge you to be vulnerable and admit, hey, I don't know this or I don't know that, but ask questions. And the other thing is that I think people are somewhat afraid of individuals with disabilities. My mom and dad, Nan and Josh Kaufman, are listening. Thank you guys. I'm where I am today because of you. And I'll get to my brother in a minute. But I think people are often afraid to ask, to talk to people with disabilities, because they are examining their own, when they look at me, they are examining their own mortality. And because while I wish all of you a healthy life, one day, a bunch of you on this screen, out of the 31 of you, a lot of you are going to join me in the Walker Club just because of aging. And that's why the rabbi said, well, I don't need to put a ramp for my bima yet because no one's disabled in my synagogue. And I said to him respectfully, the disabled people in your community probably choose a different shul because they know your bima is not accessible, and people may not need it now, but they'll need it 10 years from now. And so, but I think that, going back to my earlier point, I think that people are uncomfortable interacting with people with disabilities because they're always afraid they're going to say something wrong or use an incorrect term, or somebody has an IQ of 40, I don't know how to talk to them, or they judge a book by its cover, like my brother, like when I went to my brother's group home, and because my cerebral palsy is a spectrum disorder, and my brother J.L. Kaufman is the reason why I am in disability advocacy, because of him, but he needs assistance with all activities of daily living, showering, shaving, dressing, eating, toileting. And so some girls from the University of Maryland Hillel were visiting one time. I believe Danny was there too that day. But my brother and his friends were all talking about their chores. I do the dishwasher. I mean, I wash the dishes. I vacuum the floor. My brother said I answered the phone. And these girls in a real baby voice said to me, and Aaron, what's the chore that you do here at JFGH? And, you know, I really wanted to get upset, but I once had a colleague who told me, an able-bodied colleague, Aaron, I really like you because you're diplomatic and you have a great sense of humor and you're bright. And most people I've encountered in 30 years in the developmental disabilities field are militant and angry. So there's already that perception out there about people with disabilities. So you have to always try with a smile and with kindness. But as Susan knows from our conversations, sometimes it gets very tiring when to educate with a smile when people ask you multiple times a day in some instance, what happened to you? Were you in an accident? Or what happened to me more recently? I was out with a friend and somebody told my friend who was able-bodied, we had just finished lunch, that he should check out this website for me because it would cure, he said, because this website will cure your friend's paralysis. And I said, sir, thank you very much for the suggestion, but I don't have cerebral paralysis. I have a condition called cerebral palsy, but I'll look it up. And so this may seem obvious, but please do not make your first question when encountering somebody with a disability, what happened to you? Or do not assume, talk to the person and not their aide or their parent. And sometimes they get pushback and say, well, what if somebody has an intellectual disability and they have an IQ of 40 and they can't understand what I'm saying? And I always say, speak to them just like you would anybody else. And if you sense a processing issue, you can simplify your language, but do not automatically assume that somebody is intellectually disabled, because that assumption is too often made. People are also, when I tell them I graduated from the University of Maryland, they say to me, oh, God bless you, you're such an inspiration. Well, my friends, I'm very grateful that people think of me as an inspiration, but it's tiring to be other people's inspiration. And we, people with disabilities, may be an inspiration to a certain extent, but we're not an inspiration for just simply living our lives and going to the movies and going to work like the rest of you. And I think sometimes society tends to view us as some sort of foreign object. Like whenever the subject, because I talk to people sometimes about this, about people with disabilities wanting to date and have intimacy and different things like that, people are always shocked that people with disabilities would be interested in that kind of thing. But there's more in common. I have more in common with you than you think. And the most important thing is just for me to see that you are, that you talk to me like you do your neighbor, your friends, because if you're uncomfortable, I'll tell you. I mean, I can tell. And usually I put people at ease, make a joke, but that gets tiring. So overall, to be feel welcome at a congregation, I'm going to need to feel that I am embraced, that I don't have to put on airs, make self-deprecating jokes, and things of that nature. I think that far too often people will just say, oh, well, I don't want to offend people with disabilities. So the reason I didn't talk to you at the, ONEG is because I was just too afraid to say anything, because I thought, I didn't want to say mentally retarded anymore because, that's not what we say, but I didn't know the new term intellectual disability. So what I'm here to say in closing is ask questions, feel free to make mistakes, and make every effort to forget the walker, forget the wheelchair, forget the white cane for people who are blind, and just get to know the person's neshama, get to know the person's soul, because that is all we want. It's one thing to put us in the back row with our aide or whatever, but we don't want to just be invited to your things. We want a sense of belonging, and hopefully you will take this rare opportunity of your building renovations to eradicate the physical barriers that exist, but also work think hard and have difficult conversations about the attitudinal barriers that exist at TBT. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Aaron. What a privilege to learn from you. And we hope that this is perhaps one first conversation of many among ourselves in our congregation, and also with you as our new friend of TBT.
Yes.
So we're very glad that you were here.
Oh, and just very briefly, I almost didn't earn my paycheck because I'm having a big event called Jewish Disability Advocacy Day with Ali Stoker, the first person on Broadway to appear who uses a wheelchair to appear on Broadway and win a Tony, and then numerous, and then also Ezra Freck, a Jewish Paralympian. And the second day we will be tackling systemic barriers that people with disabilities still face as they seek inclusion 31 years after the ADA. So I'll put that in the chat right now. Sorry, Danny, but I just wanted to say that.
That's totally fine. I'm glad that you remembered to mention that. And in case you forget, everybody, after the Zoom chat, that link is right in your inbox with our weekly shofar blast for you to get involved and hear some of those stories. So Aaron, you did exactly what I hoped you would do, which is that you invited us into a deep conversation. That's something very important and often overlooked within the Jewish community. And you challenged us. Just so everybody knows, I asked him to challenge us because I think that that's important. And I hear your message loud and clear that it's not people with disabilities whose job it is to challenge us, but really our job to challenge ourselves. So I hope we can all internalize that and send any phone calls to me, not to Sarah Mervine, because she gets enough other phone calls in the near term, but please know that these issues are ones that we take very seriously, and I look forward to many conversations in the future as we truly seek to become a welcoming and open congregation to all who would join us. Aaron is not able to stay for Q&A at the end, but he has very graciously offered his email address to anybody who wants to reach out and say hello after the fact. So Aaron or Haida or Corey, would you mind putting that into the chat so anybody can just copy that and keep track of it if you want to reach out to Aaron later? Thank you. And thank you for all that you're writing in the chat, everybody. Great to see your comments here. Thanks, Corey. All right, everybody, we'll conclude our service now, beginning with Aleinu L'Shabeach. So we re-enter our prayer, and if it's comfortable to do so, please rise along with us.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוד עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
I invite us to have a seat now. As our hearts turn to our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. I know that we're joined this evening by some mourners in our congregation, so I'll invite them, if they're comfortable, to please rise as I read their loved one's name. Tonight in the period of Shiva and Shloshim, the 7 and 30 days following a loss, we honor the memory of Helen Dreyfus, mother of David Keller and Molly, grandmother of Jennifer Keller and Abigail Wasserman. Rosalind Friedman, mother of Elizabeth Friedman Rubin. Sandra Hyman, mother of Leslie Hyman and Blanche Boyd. And Velmore T. Langevin, father of Ted Langevin and Sue Grohl. Observing a yahrzeit means remembering somebody who has passed away at this season in time gone by. And the yahrzeits this week include Eric Romine, Kathleen Prescott, Pearl Lurie, Edward Mizell, Ira Goldman, Richard H. Klein, Gertrude Miller, Barbara Mells Lee, George Walker, Rose Geringer, Gertrude Kagan, Geraldine Stutzman, Murray Stutz, Howard Fox, and Leonard Greenberg. If there are others whom we should call to mind at this time, as we remember those lost, please feel free to add their names to the chat at this point if you would like to. We remember also Amir Locke, all those who perished in the Shoah, those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. And I invite us to rise in solidarity as a community alongside our mourners now, if it's comfortable to do so, as we join together in the words of the mourners Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divra chireute, ve'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uve'yomechon, uve'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevorach le'alam ule'almei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudesha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, as together we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
I'll have a seat, and if you do have a challah and a wine or a little juice nearby, this would be a great time to grab it. And we'll give you a minute because Donna Fettis is also here, and Donna, who's greeting us on behalf of our board, has a few announcements for us. Hi, Donna.
Hello, thank you, Rabbi, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone. A warm welcome to any guests who are here with us tonight. So I'm Donna Fettis, co-director of programming on the board of directors here at TBT. Tomorrow, join us on Zoom for Torah study at 9 a.m., led by Cantor Boyle. Links are in your inbox. This Sunday, February 13th, religious school, confirmation, JTAT, chat, and Tikkun will all meet in person at their regularly scheduled times. Please note there's no religious school next Sunday, the 20th, in observance of President's Day. A few copies of Art Spiegelman's acclaimed graphic novel Mouse are still available. If you're interested in a free copy, please contact the office. And again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Donna. Thank you very much. And we'll now make Kiddush together. So feel free to grab your Kiddush wine. I will grab mine, and Cantor will lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'avav ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techilah le'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
Chaim.
Amen.
All right. And Susan has our challah. There we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Okie dokie, Cantor, what do you say? Is it time for a closing song?
Sure.
I think we have Adon Olam on the docket for tonight, right?
Yes.
If that's not an oldie but a goodie, I don't know what is.
Oldie but a goodie. All right. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Lignasa V'chefso Kol Asay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam V'yacharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Himloch Noda Adon Olam V'hu Haya V'hu Hoven V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Lignasa V'chefso Kol Asay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam Be'ado Akidrochi Ve'tishan Ve'ahira Adon Olam Ve'imruchi Deviati Adonai Ve'lohira Adon Olam Asher Malach Terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Lignasa V'chefso Kol Asay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
Well, everybody, I hope that you will find blessing and rest this Shabbat. I hope you will find time with family and friends, time for something that you love to do. And I look forward to seeing you again next Shabbat. Have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And special thanks to our guest, Aaron, for joining and sharing of himself today. It's good to see all of you. Have a good weekend. Shabbat Shalom.